for those of you that are enjoying a recording of our 2026 Antarctica Q&A session, thank you for taking time to follow up and listen to the recording. My name is Jeff Adams. I'm president of Marathon Tours, and I'm also your race director for Antarctica. I was trying to remember whether this is my 14th or 15th time that I'll be returning to Antarctica. Never thought I'd go once, let alone 14 or 15. So welcome to all of you. You are going to be in the picture that you're looking at for next year's Q&A. We're excited to be a month-ish away, month and a half away for some of you. And so with that, let's get right into it. And thank you for all who not only are on, but took time to send in the questions. We've organized the questions around, the key themes of the time we're going to spend together experiencing Antarctica. And again, I appreciate everybody who contributed to the questions that we'll spend some time talking about on this call. Some of the questions that you submitted were more specific to you rather than a group, and Anne or Mary Kate have responded to you, or will be responding to you on those. So keep asking those questions. We want you to feel comfortable. We want you to feel ready, and we want you to be excited about the event. So with that, Mary Kate, I think you're driving the slides. Let's jump right in. So last call for sponsorship of the mileage markers. And for those of you who have already gone through that registration process, thank you. Typically, this is the foundation to the financial support we provide to our philanthropic partner, Oceanides. I'm proud to be on the board of directors with Oceanides. Last year, I think we raised a total of $100,000+, but it all started with the mileage markers. I'll just give you a reminder that we'll be having two fundraising initiatives, the pre-sale of the mileage markers, and then on both Voyage 1 and Voyage 2, we'll have an auction of some of the more select mileage markers that we hold back, as well as other items such as a personalized map of our cruise together. So that'll be a one-of-a-kind item, and I'll leave your imagination to some of the other items. The most economic opportunity for you to get a souvenir is these mileage markers. We tend to see clients being very generous in their support of Oceanides after having experienced Antarctica firsthand. And so some of the items, thankfully, will go for a good amount of money. So if having a memento of your time together, these mileage markers will be out on the course, so they will be fresh with Antarctica snow, grit, or whatever else the surface throws at us that day, and make for a fabulous keepsake. So last call on that for both ships, limited number remaining, and Mary Kate will take care of that with you. Onward. So our journey together internationally, we expect we'll have another 20 to 25 countries represented on the two ships. So to build in a buffer, the itinerary includes the time we will spend together in Buenos Aires. So you'll come in internationally to Buenos Aires, Aziza. Final docs will give you plenty of information in terms of transportation if it's not within the times that we will be providing shuttles. And also, obviously, the times that we'll be providing shuttles. After we come together in Buenos Aires and enjoy a few days there, we will be taking a charter flight to Ushuaia, 3.5-ish hours based on weather. And we'll be touching down in Ushuaia, southernmost city in the world, where we'll have hopefully a little bit of time to explore city center. No guarantees, again, all weather dependent, before we board the ship. So we'll board the ship there, and after necessary training, lifeboat drills, etc., we'll set sail late afternoon, beginning our journey through the Drake Passage. And then once we clear the Drake Passage, once we clear, just drew a blank on that. And what's the channel there?
The Beagle Channel.
Beagle Channel. I just drew a blank. Beagle Channel, and then we'll get into the Drake, weather permitting, somewhere around 11 o'clock at night. With the new ships that we've brought on board over the past 3 years, we have a faster journey, on average a day and a half, and a smoother journey between the bow design and the stabilizers that they can deploy when we're not in proximity to ice. So quicker ride down than our prior navigation partners, and that will bring us to King George Island, where our team will go ashore hopefully the afternoon of the second day at sea to meet with the base commanders and put together the course, joining you back on the ship in time for dinner and race briefing. Next page, please. So if you look at where we are at in the Antarctic Peninsula, King George Island is where we have been going for the past 30 years. You will be the 31st year that we've held this race in King George Island. And like many of the islands along this portion of the peninsula, they're populated by various research bases. Let's get a little closer to where our target is. So when we do come ashore on King George Island, we're in the protection of the cove there, and we have 4 research stations that we'll be interacting with. We come ashore right there where the red dot is, and that's with the Russian base, Bellenhausen, and the Chilean base, Fry. And Chilean base, by the way, as you can see as you go a little bit inland, happens to be a base run by the Chilean Air Force. So we do have an airfield there that may impact course prep or race day slightly. Typically, it's not a case, but it can. It's also an evac point for us if we had a serious emergency. Down to the south, you'll see the Great Wall Station. And up to the north, you'll see Artigas, which is the Uruguayan station. So start finish is right on the shared boundary of the Russian and the Chilean base. And based on conditions, the course could include both the extension down to Great Wall and up to Artigas, so the Chinese and the Uruguayan base. The other variation to this setup that you will see will be if the course conditions, weather, or base activity limits us, you will see 1/2 of the map that you're looking at not available. For example, we might not have the opportunity to go out to Artigas and back, in which case that would take us to Great Wall. If the full course is available for the marathoners, that's 3 loops from start finish down to Great Wall, back to the start finish, up to Artigas, and we do that 3 times. Half marathoners, that would be 1 full circuit and then an additional half, and ultra full 3 loops, and then your additional out and back. If we do have a situation where only 1/2 of the course is available, then we would have 6 out and backs to Great Wall, keeping with that example. For the marathon, 3 out and backs for the half. And again, for voyage 1, where we have some running the ultra, the 50K, that would get us 7+ laps out. So that all depends on what we find when we go ashore. We'll usually have a little insight before we arrive in King George, but that's part of setup day, is verifying base activity conditions and then coming back onto the ship. So here's your first example of why we call this an expedition, an adventure, and we ask everybody to be very, very flexible. So set your expectations for that. If you can imagine, we'll provide some pictures upon request. Conditions with these roads that are connecting the bases. They are not paved. They can be anywhere from hand-size rocks to smaller rocks down along the water as you approach the Great Wall base to hard-packed dirt roads up around the Chilean and the Russian bases. If we've got snow cover, those are firm. If it's cold, well below freezing, those are firm. If we're around the freezing point where we've had some non-freezing precipitation, you're going to have some muddy conditions potentially. Again, we'll brief you on all this after we're on shore, setting up and ready for you. Let's go on to the next one. So here's the elevation chart. What you're going to see is continued hills. Some of these hills are fairly steep climbs. You'll see a total elevation gain of 1,400 plus feet for the marathon, 700 feet for the half marathon. But as you can see on the lower portion of your screen, the hills are continuous. This area was created and carved by tidal glaciers retreating thousands of years ago. So definitely rugged landscape, and with 2.2 miles from the start finish out to either the Great Wall base or to the Uruguayan base, you will also experience different microclimates potentially during the day. So you might be zipping up as you're heading down along the water, approaching the Great Wall base, and in the protection of some of the inland areas, you might be unzipping by the airfield of the Chilean base. So we'll talk about dress here in just a minute, but really take a minute to take this in. What this means in your final training is you should be seeking some hills. For those of you in North America, we delivered with some winter weather for you to practice on here in the last few days, but definitely make sure you're getting in some hill work as you start to taper from your training for the race. Onward. In terms of the races, cutoff times, very important, but with the Ultra, we've got an 8-hour cutoff time and a halfway mark of 3 hours and 45 minutes. What that means is if you're not through half of the race by 3 hours and 45 minutes, we will be having you reduce to the marathon distance if you're running the Ultra. And if you're running the marathon, then you would have a similar situation if you do not get to the halfway mark by 3 hours and 50 minutes in the case of the marathon. So Ultra, 8-hour time limit, midway mark, 3 hours, 45 minutes, marathon, 7-hour time limit, and we need to be through the halfway at 3 hours and 45 minutes. We know from experience that you're not going to run the second half faster than the first half. And we also know as the day progresses, the impact of the weather and the cool on you will take a toll. The weather typically can get a little more volatile in the afternoon as well. So we're doing that for yours and everybody else's safety to make sure we're not out there longer than we need to be. Half marathon, 4.5 hour time limit, and no midpoint cutoff, and then 2 hours for the 10K. I want to really emphasize this next point in terms of not finishing within the designated time. If you exceed the marathon time limit, we're still out there. You've made it through the halfway point under 3 hours and 15 minutes, but you exceed the 7-hour cutoff. We will show a finish no time result next to your name. That will still count towards 7 Continents Club status, but it's not eligible for age group awards, for example. And for some of you that are members of other running clubs where you're keeping track of the number of continents that you've ran on, that might be an issue for you. So said differently, make sure you get the training in and make sure you sign up for the race that you're prepared for and then pace yourself accordingly. There's no guarantee that we will allow runners to exceed the stated cutoff times, but if weather conditions do allow, individuals are looking good, feeling good, just obviously being challenged by the terrain. It's our discretion as to whether we let the race go a little longer, but don't expect that. Again, it's going to be very dependent on the conditions and the shape that each of the individual runners are in. So finish no time. We went to that a number of years ago so that we could allow you to stay out on the course, accomplish your goal, but maintain the importance of preparation and integrity of the race. I'm sure we'll go through that 2 or 3 more times because I don't want to have any of you surprised on race day or after. Our goal is to help get you to the start line, help you celebrate the finish line, and keep everybody safe while we're doing it. And that includes the staff as well. So we'll cover that again in Buenos Aires together at the dinner and probably during the race briefing on the ship also. Mary Kate? So with Antarctica, we have a number of requirements to protect this pristine environment. And one of those requirements is that we cannot have more than 100 people ashore at any individual landing at one time. So the 100-person rule. And the way we make that work for us on race day with typically 145 runners and a number of supporters is we have multiple waves. Think back to the map that I shared with you a few pages ago. If we are at the start finish and it's 2.2 miles to the Chinese base or 2.2 to the Uruguayan base, once we've started the race and we give that time between wave 1 and wave 2, the appropriate amount of time, we now have all of wave 1 down at a different landing site. So we would then call wave 2 ashore, which will be the half marathoners and the 10K runners, wave 1 marathoners and 50K for ship 1 and marathon only for ship 2. We'll bring them ashore, and that typically will be 30 to 45 minutes later. So we'll have a wave 1 start. Once they have been dispersed down to the south or up to the north, we'll call wave 2 ashore. And within that, we'll accommodate the supporters that have signed up to come ashore and help us with race ops. So you can read between the lines there, supporters. We love having you come ashore. You're a great help in terms of pre-race, during the race, and post-race. And we do this so that we can accommodate those supporters coming ashore and being available when they are interested in being ashore based on supporting their runners and helping with the race. When we do complete the race, we will ask all runners to quickly get back into their outer shells, pants, jackets, boots, and board the Zodiacs and get back to the ship to warm up with a nice shower, get something to eat. And then once you've been kind of recharged, you're more than welcome to come back out and help and support the other runners or look around a little bit if aspects of the bases are available to us. So we'll cover that also in the pre-race briefing in terms of what additional access we might have on race day for those that want to come back and explore a little bit. So I hope that all makes sense. It works out well. And now let's get into the logistics around the race. So a lot of questions from you around the race drop points. And so I'm going to walk through that in detail. So like a New York cabbie, I'm going to slam on the brakes here and we're going to spend a few minutes on this topic. When you come ashore, via Zodiac. You'll be first met by a member of the expedition team to give you an orientation that happens before each of our landings, and then you'll come out of the Zodiac and be directed up on shore. Based on your race and race number, you will see blue tarps organized along the beach, and those blue tarps will have corresponding numbers next to them. So 1 to 20, you will have first tarp, 21 to 40, and so on. So they'll be well marked. This helps you during the race quickly find your gear if you need to access it, or post-race, where we want to make sure everybody gets bundled back up, gets back to the ship and warm, as I mentioned. Next to the start finish line, there will be another drop area, and this will be for your water bottle. So during the race, we'll have one or more water bottles that you position by the start finish, so that you don't have to divert off the course down to your staging tarp, where your dry bag is and your other supplies. It'll be right there by the start finish. And then finally, there will be another drop point out on the course. If we have both sides of the course available to us, you'll have a drop point on the way to the Chinese base. Approximately a mile, 0.2 out is an area that gives us a little protection from the wind. And we'll have volunteers, tarp, and markings, so that you clearly see where that water bottle drop is. And we'll do the same thing on the Uruguayan side. And so what that means to you is a total of 3 drop points. While we do recommend camelbacks as one way to stay hydrated, the other way is, to have 3 bottles, and you would leave 1 at start finish before the race starts. You would take 1 with you out for your first leg to the Chinese side, for example, drop it, and then when you come back to the start finish, you would pick up a 3rd bottle if you choose to do so, and take that out 1.2 miles to the Uruguayan side. So that gives you 3 access points that are well marked. Will be stationed, volunteers will be stationed there to help you as well. And that gives you easy access to water or hydration of whatever type. So if you've got an electrolyte, drink as well. A related question is, I'm dropping a bottle at the start, I'm dropping 2 bottles out on the course at the stations that I just mentioned. Do I have to worry about those water bottles freezing? And the answer is no. The agitation of you picking them up, the time out in exposed, and the average temperatures all mean that's not an issue. And if you happen to put some electrolyte powder in there, Gatorade or something of that nature, the salt is going to raise the freezing point even higher. So not an issue. You don't have to worry about it. But if you tend to be a little more of an anxious runner, and that's a concern, then go with the water belt or go with the camelback. And obviously, again, the agitation is going to keep that from freezing. So no worries about that. Let's go back to the start finish area. What else are we going to find there? So we come ashore, we find our tarp. You're going to place your tarp on there with your outer gear, your dry bag, and that'll be available to you throughout the race. And once the race is over, you also have 1 or more honey pots. I'm not sure who came up with that name, but these are going to be the toilets on the beach that are available for you. We'll stress as we get closer to the race to take advantage of all opportunities to evac on the ship before we come out to the course, because facilities on the course are very limited. We have a footprint only left behind policy, so we have to keep the other gear and supplies to a minimum. And that leads me into the final point on this page. With the 0 trash, footprint only, leave behind policy, and the conditions, we will ask that any nutrition that you're taking with you, first of all, is unwrapped. So think of the energy bars. We'll coach you to unwrap those and actually even break them into bite-sized pieces and then put them in an outer pocket. For those of you that use gels, goo, honey stinger, etc., encourage you to buy a gel flask and empty your individual packets into that flask so that you can carry that. As conditions continue to vary over the course of the race, wind is typically the constant. And the wind and the chill and numb fingers are not good for holding on to wrappers. So that's why this is a really important policy. We can't have anything left behind in an endangered area, or we lose the privilege of holding this race in future years. So this one's very important. We'll cover this a number of times. Gel flask would be a takeaway. If you don't have something like that on your water belt, they can be purchased separately. And the other option for storing some of your nutrition in your dry bag might be a Tupperware that's not going to blow away as well. And if you're buying your nutrition ahead of time, which you should, because it's not guaranteed in Buenos Aires that you'll be able to find your preferred brands or energy, please make sure that you do not purchase anything and bring anything ashore that has seeds in it. We can't be introducing seeds to the environment as well. So avoid any type of nutrition bar that has whole seeds that could ultimately create a problem for us. All right, Kate, let's go on. All right, so we've talked about the drop points, start finish. I'm going to spend a minute on the spectators. As I mentioned, because of the limitations in terms of 100 at one point, we'll be dispersing supporters and volunteers out along the course at the water drops, at key turn points, turnaround points, Chinese base, Uruguayan base. Will substitute in and out as the race goes on, although spectators in the past have been some of the most resilient, wanting to stay out there because they're enjoying being part of the race ops team. And then obviously we'll have a lot of spectators and supporters at the start finish area. And the volunteer opportunities we have there is everything from helping people get in and out of their parkas, pants, and boots at the beginning, and getting back into them when they're maybe a little more fatigued at the end of the race. So plenty of roles. We'll have sign up for you ahead of time, and we'll handle a separate briefing on the ship for spectators as we're approaching race day. We'll obviously have our photographer out there, but I'm going to encourage all of you, to embrace contributing to the number of photographs and videos that we capture on race day by carrying your cameras as well. We'll have a series of Google albums that will be sent out to you after the race so that you have access, but also available to upload while you're traveling with us. So even though conditions are going to be a little challenging on the ship in terms of uploading pre and post while you're still enjoying the trip, you'll have access to that. So those albums, along with our albums, sometimes can total 5, 6, 7,000 pictures. So race day, love it when you all are taking pictures of each other and sharing those as well. Onward. All right, race gear. This is another one of those where I think there's a little anxiety that we can quickly alleviate. As I mentioned, the surface is going to vary. It might be frozen and slightly rutted up from vehicles. It might be on the muddy side. It might be snow covered, and it might be all the above, depending on what part of the course you're on. So definitely recommend trail shoes for stability. And if those trail shoes are water resistant or waterproof, all the better. Running gaiters, definitely recommend. This will protect the area around your ankles, and it'll help minimize any moisture and grit and mud and other things entering into your shoes or socks. With respect to micro spikes, if you have them, feel free to bring them. It's very rare that they're needed. A couple years ago, we had a situation where there was fairly heavy snow early, and then that was packed down pretty tight after a few loops by the runners. And in that case, we brought trekking poles ashore and had them for, one area that we were concerned with. One of the hills was a little too much of an incline and it was getting a little too hard packed. So we do have the ability to bring in the trekking poles that we use on expedition days. So micro spikes, if you have ran with them before, if you have them, feel free to bring them. It's not an item that I think you should feel required to go purchase if you don't. And it's not a good idea to start introducing new equipment on race day. So I emphasize the point, if you don't have them, you haven't used them before, I would not worry about that. But running gaiters, easy to use. Do that in conjunction with the shoes. A number of you were asking questions about which shoe do we recommend. And the answer is the shoe that fits you the best. So you really need to go to REI or Quality Shoe Store and try on the Sportivas and the other ones and find the one that fits for your foot. I think most of us are experienced enough runners to know, like anything else, that's not something we want to start introducing a new version of on race day. So go with shoes that you're already comfortable with. If you're looking at investing in a new pair, definitely make sure you get them fitted properly and then get out and get some training runs in with them. I mentioned Camelbacks or other hydration before, and gel flasks and a dry bag. Specifically on the dry bag, we recommend a 30-liter. That's going to allow you to have some additional nutrition, some additional layers that you can access during the race or be able to drop things in. It also provides a way for you keeping your gear dry, as precip maybe moves in and out. Most important, other than the shoes to me, is to have some wicking socks, so some thin silk socks that you can wear underneath your normal running socks. If you've got compression socks that are above calf high, I'd recommend those, but definitely like to have a liner in there. Let's combine socks and shoes here for a minute. Definitely do not recommend you changing shoes or fiddling with them at all during the race. You're just going to you're going to introduce some grit and dirt into the equation, which does not end well. So if we have the wicking sock, if we have our normal running sock, hopefully compression over the calf so it doesn't bunch down on you, you're going to give yourself that protection against the friction that some of the grit might cause and the moisture, and it's going to keep you warmer. But definitely we want to keep all that in place and not be stopping to switch out to another pair of shoes during the race. So don't think you need a second pair of shoes for race day. You need a second pair of shoes for on the ship, but not for race day. So 30-liter bag, you can get that online or most anywhere. Just make sure it's a dry bag. And then I suggest that you pick up the sock liners. Gloves and mittens. On race day, recommendation is that you have 2 pairs of gloves, one for on the Zodiac, so if there's a little splash, and then one for running. And if you want, thermal layer underneath that, again, you're better off throwing a couple of pairs of gloves and hats and things like that into your bag, just so in case they start getting wet. But definitely a minimum of 2 because we do approach the beach via Zodiac, as I've mentioned, and we can have a little splash on race morning. Thermal hat, running hat. If you're a person that likes a running hat with the bill to it, baseball hat or whatever you want to call it, because of the wind, I do recommend that you at least have a stocking cap that you wear over the crown. So you layer the baseball hat, the running hat with a little stocking hat, and that's going to give you a little added degree of warmth, but it's also going to keep that brimmed hat in place. Sunscreen, definitely, and eyewear. For those of you that have contacts, you'll be wearing contacts on race day. Wind, grit, as I've touched on a number of times, is the issue. I strongly recommend that you have some running goggles. In the past, I've seen people go as big as ski goggles as well, but some nice running goggles to give you a good, clean, protected environment around your eyes. Not wearing contacts, you can get away with sunglasses as well. Much like you might be zipping up and zipping down during the race, the sunglasses might be going on and coming off. In terms of layering, this is the issue. As I'm sure most of you know, in cold weather. Personally, I prefer a wicking base layer. So from smart wool to a race shirt to some other type of wicking layer, and then think maybe a mid-weight quarter zip Patagonia shirt on top of that, quarter zip so you can vent if you're starting to warm up, and then some type of rain-resistant shell, whether that's a favorite Boston Marathon running jacket or another one. And then you want to have some backup layers in your bag, so puffy, ski jacket, etc. For those of you that are more comfortable in colder weather, you're going to have perhaps fewer layers or thinner layers. And for those of you that are not as accustomed to cooler weather, you'll want to make sure you have additional options available to you. We've seen everything from ski pants to ski jackets, and we've also seen others that are well accustomed to these environments wearing a thin running pant and one or two layers on the top. So again, I can't give a one size fits all recommendation. My recommendation is have a couple of bonus layers available for you in your dry bag, and realize you'll probably be layering up and layering down during the day. With that in mind, the base layer for your legs, it should be more of a mid-weight or heavyweight thermal compression pant, to help with the train and the wear and tear on the muscles, and then maybe a rain shell pair of pants up to ski pants if you tend to be on the colder side, or a little slower runner and might be out there a little longer, then you might have a heavier layer there. So dry bag, extra layers, you best, but make sure the outer layer for both your torso and your legs, you at least have one waterproof option. All right, let's move on. All right, so now let's take a step back and kind of think of it sequentially, in terms of when we arrive, and then we'll touch on some other aspects of our time together now that we have the big race talking points behind us. As I mentioned before, coming into Ushuaia, Buenos Aires first, and that's going to be Aziza. We have some scheduled times, and then there's some times that a few of you might be arriving or delayed potentially and arriving the next day. And all that will be covered in detail in the documents coming out from Ann and Mary Kate. Language Spanish, currency is pesos. Pesos very volatile. So I would recommend that you all have a number of small $1, $5, $10, $20 bills, US preferably. Euro is a good second option. And then you have the ability to use that for tipping and other incidentals. Most of the gift shops, restaurants that you go to, credit cards are going to be available, but you'll want to make sure you have some ready cash. The ATM machines are often out or have lines, and it's just a level of anxiety that I'd rather you not have to deal with. International phone plans, check your carrier, check your current plan, and if you need to add the international plan, it's a lot easier to do that, obviously, before you leave. On your phone also, if you don't have Google Translate downloaded, with Spanish already available, so it's accessible to you without a Wi-Fi signal. That's another thing I would do before leaving home is Google Translate and download Spanish so you can hover your phone over the menu and see what it is you're ordering. We do have a mandatory dinner. I referenced this earlier, and that dinner is going to be a lot social, starting to build the camaraderie of the group. And it's also going to be required reminders of protocols that we have to make sure we've covered with you and make sure you know and understand the importance of. That dinner is going to be for Voyage 1 on Wednesday, March 4th. Voyage 2 is Sunday, not Thursday, and I believe that's March 12th. So a correction or a typo on that one.
I'm just going to butt in. It's going to be for
Yeah.
Voyage 2 Sunday, March 15th. So apologize
15th,
for the error there.
so I have the 15th off.
You guys
Thanks,
will all
Andy.
arrive on the 13th.
So a few days to explore in Buenos Aires, a half-day tour, free day, required dinner, and then we'll be on our way to Ushuaia via charter. The point that needs to be emphasized and will be emphasized in final docs as well, and while we're together in Buenos Aires, is there are very strict checked bag weight limits on the domestic flights. So you all have one carry-on, 8 kilograms, 17 pounds, and one checked bag. And what that means is if you have more than that because you maybe were pre-tripping or you have a post-trip, we'll want to check that at the hotel. So I saw that question come up a few times. I'm going to be in early, doing a couple days before the group. Typically, the hotel is very accommodating if you want to stop by and drop off some of your luggage before checking in, for example, 2 days later. And they also are very accommodating when we leave for Ushuaia to let you check excess luggage and then retrieve that when we come back. Most important reminder on that is if you do check the baggage at the hotel, when we return, if you've extended and booked additional hotel nights through us, that's great. The baggage is there. If you left baggage and you're flying out later that night, you're likely to have a logistics problem. So for those of you that are not staying, checking baggage at the hotel, not a good option because the distance and the traffic from the airport, the international airport to the hotel can vary greatly. So if we return into Aziza and you're flying out a couple hours later, you're not going to have time, most likely, to get back to the hotel, retrieve the bag, and back to the airport. So not recommended unless you're spending additional nights in Buenos Aires. Extra baggage, can it be purchased? Extra weight, and the answer is no. And Anne or Mary Kate chime in. I saw this question in reviewing the notes one more time, or the questions one more time before this call. Is a purse in addition to the carry-on, or does a purse need to be put in a carry-on before going through security? Either of you have the answer to that?
Yep. You can have a small carry-on, like a purse or a backpack that fits under the seat in front of you, but it must be calculated into the weight of your carry-on. So it cannot exceed that 17 pounds for items that you're carrying on to the plane.
Thank you. All right, so then get through security as a group, and our charter, once boarded, 3.5 hours on average. We come into Ushuaia, southernmost city in the world, and hopefully we'll have a couple hours to explore. So we'll collect our bags in the secure area. There will be a drop zone right outside the secure area for our expedition partners to then deliver to the ship. And we'll be taken over to a parking lot right by the entrance of the piers and downtown, assuming we have a few hours to explore downtown. If that happens, we'll give you plenty of insight into what to explore and when to be back. So let's save that for another day. but hopefully that will happen. And final docs, in addition to much of the information we've covered, we'll remind you of flight times as we get a little closer. We could give you those times today, and they would probably change a couple of times between now and the time we're together. So that'll come out in the final docs a couple of weeks prior to departure, and we still might have some adjustments. So I'm back to make sure you bring flexible with you for the entire trip. Okay, let's go to the next one. So ship life. The question that comes up the most is how warm is it on the ship? It's very comfortable. You'll probably find yourself wearing jeans, running pants, something comfortable, and long sleeve shirt. Maybe, you got a puffy handy because you want to run out on the deck to observe wildlife that's passing by. But very comfortable on the ship, very comfortable in your rooms. And additional layers for that is not a priority. That will help you avoid overpacking also by realizing that. Let's go through kind of the same process with ship life and what to wear that we did on the race course. Shoes wise, no flip flops, no open-toed shoes. The reason for that is with the motion of the ship and the weight of some of those watertight doors. The door swinging can do a lot of damage if you're not careful. So you'll be briefed on proper protocol so that your hands don't get caught, feet don't get caught, but the extra layer of protection is making sure those are closed-toed shoes. So do not waste any of your luggage space and weight on open-toe shoes. So another pair of running shoes or something else that is, your go-to is recommended there. As I mentioned, jeans, running pants, sweatpants, etc. We do have a captain's dinner, so it's recommended that you at least have one nice outfit. So you could use that for captain's dinner and also the dinner in Buenos Aires. And individual dinners where you maybe go out for a special night in Buenos Aires, but otherwise you can keep it pretty basic. And we're back to the layering for most of the excursions and and ship life. We do have limited medical services. Not only do we have our doctor, but we have the ship's doctor. Just need to be aware that the medical supplies are limited, and seeing the doctor and utilizing any of that medication does come with a cost that is between you and the ship on settlement day. Laundry services available as well, which helps you minimize the packing. And for the first time, we're going to have access to free Wi-Fi up to 500 megabytes. Yes, Starlink has helped in the last couple of years, but it's still not 100% reliable. Just think of the angle of those satellites to Buenos Aires being very different than the angle down to the South Pole. So sometimes service is very spotty and slow and also very limited in terms of what you can upload. So don't be expecting to easily upload a lot of social media, but an occasional simple picture goes fairly quick to loved ones. Phone calls, if you're on WhatsApp, that's a way to minimize the $3 charge. But if you have a specific, call that you've got to make, and then you've got to make it, and not only is there the $3 charge, but you need to be aware of any plan issues on that one. The other thing is parka and boots. Those are provided. So the need for you to pack hiking boots for the days that we have landings and are exploring penguin rookeries, hiking to the top, seeing some ruins from prior whaling days. You don't need to be packing hiking boots. For all landings, we'll be using the rubber boots that are provided not only for your comfort and for your safety, but also for the safety of the environment and the biohazard protocols that we have. It's important that we use those boots. Same thing with the parkas. Key thing that you'll need to have would be some type of pants. Again, we're back to ski pants. We're back to climbing pants with a waterproof shell. You know, if that morning's excursion or afternoon's excursion has precip, you'll want to have a good waterproof outer shell for your legs. Outer waterproof shell is provided with the parka and the boots, but for your legs, you need to have that packed. Next. All right, on the ship, we've got some required activities, and that's going to be more the case on the way down as we're becoming more familiar with the protocols. And on the way back, those are going to be much more educational and will benefit from the expertise and the insights of the expedition crew. Once we're in the protection of the peninsula and the continent, you know, then we'll have activities that involve you disembarking, kayaking, typically one of the favorites. My recommendation there for you is if you have not kayaked ever before, it's maybe not the best place to learn. But if you have had some exposure to paddling, kayaking, canoeing, it's definitely something that you should consider. It will be announced on the ship that the sign up is open for those that are interested, and then there will be an organizing of all the names into group 1 through group 5 or 6 or whatever the number is. And then there will be a briefing and certification process during one of the lecture times on the ship. And then obviously weather dependent on how many we get out, but we work hard, you know, to get as many out as possible over the course of hopefully 6 to 7 expeditions while we're in Antarctica post-race. The fluid on the ship, etc., water refill stations throughout the ship. So having, you know, that collapsible Nalgene or other type of container is a good to have. And the main lobby area, you know, where the bar is located has alcoholic beverages, and then there are tea and coffee stages in a couple of spots on the ship throughout the day where they'll cycle some different types of nutrition, cookies, etc. as well. Eating is usually not the problem. Overeating maybe is for some of us. But throughout the day, you've got the fluids available. And for those of you that are concerned about whether it's a Coke or a Pepsi products that are available, it's Coca-Cola. The currency on board is US dollars, and where that comes into play is if you're wanting to tip at the bar and before we disembark, when we're settling up our bills, there's a separation between the hotel and restaurant team. Those tips are included in your package, and the expedition team, the ones that are helping us explore via Zodiac, go ashore, kayak, all of those expedition members are tipped separately, and that's cash only. So there will be a money drop at the main reception desk for those tips, and you can see the recommendation is 15 per person per day, or 150 for a 10-night cruise. So cash, again, as I mentioned earlier, is very important for you to have. It's tough to try to get while you're there, and it comes into play on the ship in the form of gratuities during the week at the bar and at the end of the trip with the expedition team. Mary Kate? So you're going to see some required forms. The participant declaration form must be completed by all travelers. flight information so we know, when to expect you to arrive and also departure. A reminder, very important, as we're coming back from Ushuaia into Buenos Aires, please, please, please do not book your return ticket prior to 8:30 p.m. on departure day if you're departing the same day we're returning. Obviously, if you're departing after staying a couple of extra days in Buenos Aires, you're free to book that whenever you want, but you run the risk of not having enough time if we're delayed coming back from Ushuaia. The other thing is if we're a little early, Buenos Aires typically does not open for checking your bags and checking in at the airport for your international flight home until 3 hours prior. So 8:30 or later for the international flights. I think that's the majority of them. But just double check that and make sure that's fine. And then obviously update Mary Kate or Anne, depending on which ship you're on. Voyage 1 for Mary Kate, ship 2 for Anne. If you've had any changes, final last call on mile markers. We touched on that earlier. 7 Continents Club finishers, those of you that are finishing your 7th continent at the marathon distance, ultra distance, half distance, and happy to be hosting the 10K for the first time this year. Make sure you get those finisher forms in. If your doctor recommends flu, COVID, or other shots, I'd get those sooner rather than later. And while checking in with your doctor, I would make sure you talk to the doctor about any motion sickness prescriptions that they recommend. Most of you, if you have a sensitivity or a concern, they'll be recommending a patch for you. On the ship, we'll give you plenty of coaching on when to put those patches on, when to take them off, so that it minimizes the effects on race day. But it all starts with your doctor recommending what's right for you based on their expertise. In terms of socials, Instagram, Facebook, family and friends love it when they're seeing updates. So if you have not already found those sites and are following them, that's a good thing to do. And obviously we'll want to make sure we're uploading the photos that you're taking as well as the photos our photographer's taking. Lingering questions, Q&As coming out. Anne and Mary Kate, 2 exceptional trip designers and leaders for us on the trip, are also available to you. Let's make sure we ask those. So again, as I said at the top of the call, everybody's very comfortable and feeling confident about their trip to Buenos Aires, Ushuaia, and Antarctica. And then gear list, review that again. If you have any specific questions around particular items, I or they are happy to answer those as well. And with that, final recommendations that probably make the most sense other than what we covered is just the training. Weather changes there quite a bit. Most runners, I think, we wait for the weather to warm up a little bit in the morning or for the winds to calm down. I would encourage you in these last few weeks, for more of the mental preparation than anything else, is go pick the ugliest day to go get a run in and enjoy the run. And as I said earlier in the call, definitely seek out and do a little more hill work if you haven't done enough of that before you hop on the plane. We will have a couple of shakeout runs while we're together in Buenos Aires. There's a nice nature refuge along the basin, where the river starts to meet the Atlantic, and hopefully that will be open and available to us. So we'll get a little shakeout in together and start to get a feel for where everybody's training is, which helps us on race day. With that, I think I've covered it all. I appreciate everybody hopping on, as mentioned, and encourage you to listen or replay any section of this that you still have some open questions on. And then if there's still a question after the replay, reach out to us and we'll get back to you quickly. So thank you all very much. Safe travels until we're together in Buenos Aires. look forward to the class of 2026 being together. Thank you.